edition of Flute and Drum in conjunction with Loyalist FM, the first ever online Loyalist programming dedicated to possibly the single biggest musical cultural phenomenon in Western Europe, the Loyalist marching band movement. I'll be your host, Quincey, and over the coming weeks, Flute and Drum will be delving into the marching band world and talking to some of the most respected and influential figures within the many tens of thousands of people who dedicate a large part of their lives to Loyalist flute bands. Our guest on Flute and Drum this week has been a member of his band for 21 years and has seen his band go from being a small country band to one of the largest in the country. This week's guest on Flute and Drum is the bandmaster of Drumderg Loyalists Keady, Paul Elliott. Paul, you've been a bandsman for over 20 years. What is your background within bands? How did you get involved?
Well, basically, my father, Trevor, he contested with a pipe band, Killeen pipe band, and was a drummer with the Royal Irish Rangers pipe band. My grandfather, my uncles, my aunts were all involved in pipe bands, and basically from the age of 5 I was taught by my father how to drum, and I remember it vividly because when he brought me in for the lessons I would be sitting trying to do a bit of drumming, and if I got it wrong he rapped the knuckles off me, so I was made sure and get it right the next time.
A lot of people learn like that.
Well, I think that's the way I was taught anyway, and it stood me in good stead. I joined my first band, which was Keady Pipe Band, in 1982. I joined the band to do drum major, and I done that for a couple of years, and then I went on to the side drum. After obviously a couple of years learning the side drum, I went on to the side drum. I'd done it for a couple of years again, and then in 1985 I joined Drumderg. I'd actually followed them for a long time, and there's one person in the band that stood out, and that was the drum major, a guy by the name of Paul Donaldson. With myself being a drum major for a pipe band, the only thing I wanted to ever do in a flute band was drum major. He was very eccentric as a drum major, and I actually remember the first trophy that Drumderg ever won, and that was up in Kilkeel, and Paul Donaldson won it for best drum major. Because of the anti-drink policy in our band, he didn't fill the cup with drink, he filled it full of jelly babies.
Nice idea.
That's just one of the stories.
What year would that have been?
Well, that actually was before I joined the band. It's a story that has been told down through the years. And basically, it's very vivid in everybody's memory of Paul Donaldson with the sunglasses and the hat.
And a trophy full of jelly babies.
And a trophy full of jelly babies. So that's what sort of drew me to the band. And I actually remember they didn't have many band practices in those days, and that was in around 1985, and the band was sort of not practicing much. I made inquiries about getting a flute, and I duly got a flute off one of the Mitchell boys, and I took it home with the notes, and I started to play it, and I thought it was great, getting on great guns, and I went to the bandmaster's house one Monday night, and he told me, "You've done very well, you're playing it the wrong way around." Right. So I had to go back again and start learning the whole thing again, which I done because I had a great interest in it, and that's how I got involved in flute bands. After that, basically in around 86, 87, the band was sort of struggling. It was almost off the road. Then I got involved as bandmaster in the band.
Drumderg flute band are over 80 years old. Paul, what is the history of the band?
The band was formed in 1923, primarily as a flute band. The uniform back at that stage was a white shirt and black trousers, and they practiced at the town and land of Drumderg in a house that was owned by Atchison's.
Was the band actually formed by a lodge or anything, or affiliated to a lodge at that stage?
The band was primarily made up of lodge members, and it went on basically for a long time, and then was cut when the war years were in, the Second World War, and then it was reformed. Probably like most bands.
They couldn't parade, nowhere to parade at that stage.
But after the war then there was an introduction of girls to the band, and the girls were invited to come along to flute also. The hall was built, our new hall was built in 1954, it was just celebrated last November, our 50th anniversary in the hall, and again the band practiced in the new Orange Hall, and that I suppose in itself created a wee bit more interest, and the membership grew. Then in the early 1970s, it was transformed from an ordinary run-of-the-mill
First flute band.
an ordinary run-of-the-mill first flute band to Blood and Thunder, because Blood and Thunder was coming on the scene at that stage.
That's what the younger ones were more interested in.
Younger ones were more interested in that sort of style of playing, and Drumderg were transferred from the first flute to Blood and Thunder because they could make a bit more racket.
Yeah.
And I suppose it annoyed the natives as well, you could say.
The Drumderg going is actually only about half a mile from Keady town itself.
Yeah, it's in around about half a mile where our parade actually finishes off. At that time, in the early 1970s, they wore blue jumpers. I think they got red ties and they had blue hats. And then in around 1983, they actually changed the name of the band to Drumderg Loyalists. That's when they acquired the famous sky blue uniform with the orange trim and the 2-foot flute.
Yeah.
And they transferred to Drumderg Loyalist flute band. And basically from that, I think the interest was good. There was, I remember, certainly in the early 80s, the membership was good, possibly upwards of 30, 35 fluters. Never more than 6 or 7 drummers, never more than 6 drummers, because it had changed somewhat at that stage.
You mentioned there that Drumderg were nearly off the road in 86, 87. What were the major spurs and influences in getting the band back up and running successfully?
Well, I would say, in my estimation, probably the biggest influence in getting the band back on the road was our current bass drummer, Alec Hearn. He called for a band practice along with our former lead tip, Trevor Scott. He was a long-serving member. They all cared about the band, basically. They did approach a former member of the band, Alan Govan, who we knew to be a very good fluter. And we approached him to come and teach the fluters, and we approached his brother to come and teach the drummers. So those boys certainly had a major influence in getting the band out on the road again. Of course, there was other members as well. There was the Mitchell brothers, there was David Elliott, there was the Elliott brothers, including myself, and we were successful, and we got a band out in Newtown Hamilton with 10 fluters and 4 drummers.
Was that a parade or a trial?
No, that was a parade. That was one of the local parades in Newtown Hamilton, which unfortunately now there is no local parade in Newtown, which is a bit sad. And an upturn in membership in the band that year, at the end of that year, I think the following year, I think it was 1989, we were back up to 18 fluters and 6 drummers with new drums purchased. I gave the band a really big lift, and then again we wanted to push on with the band, and we knew that a new uniform was needed, and we purchased a very smart uniform, which is based on the old Broxburn uniform. If you remember them boys that used to come to they still do actually come to the 12th, the County Armagh 12th, and it was a very smart uniform they had.
It was red and gold?
Red, royal, blue and gold. Well, we went a red, black and gold, and it was styled on them. Then of course the band was starting to go out a few more times, and we went up to Pride of the Hill, praying Rough Riding one night. We'd actually done a local parade in Kildare first of all, and the bus was stoned coming out the road, and we had to swap buses because the windows were broke. This is just quite a good wee story why we actually purchased Dundee drums. Well, when we were changing our bus, all of us had plenty of wisdom in band, but didn't think to take the drums out of the boot. So we ended up in Rough Riding saying, where's the drums? No drums. So we got a load of drums off Pride of the Hill and played around with them, and what a difference those drums made to us.
You haven't been using premiers?
We have been using white premiers, but been using them for 2 or 3 years at that stage, which were a good wee drum, and of course that it really did lift the band. But a major turning point in the band is really when we purchased another new uniform of navy jackets and red hats. This really hurled the time. This was back in 1998, and hurled really a successful time for the band. And of course we got Dr. Paisley up to dedicate them, and he shouted plenty of things up at the dedication. We got the blood stirred again on the membership of the band. Although it was slightly down at that stage, in 1998 I think we got 18 fluters and 8 drummers dedicated at that time. But we knew that there was loads of learners coming on, and it stood the band in good stead. Of course some outstanding performances by the band started to get us noticed in the Blood and Thunder, and obviously that sort of thing, when you're being rewarded for your efforts, of course the membership grows.
A good morale booster.
It's a good morale booster. So, when you look back at those times when the band was struggling with 10 fluters and 4 drummers to where we are today, it's quite remarkable how we've come on. But the interest has been there, and the hard work has been put in, and I suppose to stay there, people say to me, it's alright, it's easier to get there. Well, it's not easy to get there, but when you are there, it's very, very hard to stay there, basically. But we were rewarded for our efforts, and certainly the Market Hill 12th, which was a very well organised event, and the band was asked to lead that. 10-15 years ago, we had never ever dreamed of leading a 12th demonstration. And to lead a demonstration parade in Market Hill was a big, big lift for the band, because it sort of was saying to us we had arrived.
As you illustrated, Paul, the band improved gradually and continued to improve right through from the mid-80s through the 90s right to now. A very distinctive style of playing has developed. What was influencing that style of playing? What has influenced it?
Major influences in our style of playing is really taken from other bands. What we have done is we have took the best parts of what we deem to be the best parts of every band and tried to incorporate them in our own band. Take for example, when I was sort of put in charge as bandmaster, I was listening to the like of Best Boot Tree Blues, who at that time had an absolutely brilliant Blood and Thunder band with a superb bass drummer.
Best band of the period, probably.
They were the best Blood and Thunder band, probably the loudest Blood and Thunder band I ever heard, really down to their bass drummer. He was amazing. So with the like of Best Boot Tree Blues, we like the look of them, and Portavogie and Gold Springs for their sheer Blood and Thunder. And then you go into the musical side.
Those 3 bands were very much traditional Blood and Thunder style, very straightforward, very simple, but Volume being one of the most important things.
The volume in a Blood and Thunder band, of course, is one of the most important things. But then going to the musical side, and our band was influenced that way by the Scottish bands, who, in my opinion, still would have an edge in their musical ability. You take the like of the Black Skull and that tape that they put out, the tape that everybody listens to, and the tunes that were on it. And then there was other bands like Pride of the Nile and Sons of William, Glen Mavis, and then big influence, with themselves being a drumming band, big influence in the band was Clocker Drum Corps, who had an impressive drum corps back then, and still do. Then there was, again, Scottish contingent, Paisley Imperial Blues, excellent drum corps. Then you had the like of Castlewellan and Derry Lorne local. And a thing that we picked up on was the discipline of Pride of the Hill from Rough Island. And then, of course, when the Fusiliers come on the scene.
Again, marching and discipline.
Marching and discipline was their forte. Those two bands could play as well. They were amazing bands for playing, but
Fusiliers, marching and discipline was unbeatable, really.
It was unbeatable. You just knew when you were going to the parades that those boys were putting on a show. Those boys were doing different things from every other band, doing displays with their colour parties down the street, and I was really impressed with their discipline.
Very, very military.
Very military, but then that come probably from
a lot of
members were military, and I think the Fusiliers were successful at that stage because they had come from another band, and it was basically experienced members coming. The split from Armagh Blues, and they were experienced members coming and joining the Fusiliers, and they hit the ground running, and they come out and
they had a few advantages.
They had a few advantages, but they really knew how to take the benefit of those advantages and be as a band. And of course, we were very, very honoured in their first annual parade to lead it, which again was significant for us because it showed us, bands are starting to take notice of us. So that's basically where our style comes from. Of course, in later years, we sort of developed our own style as well.
Armagh Loyalists Fusiliers discipline was mentioned there. Today, Drumderg Loyalists probably are seen from the outside at least as having one of the firmest disciplined bands on the road. Certainly one of the firmest disciplined bands on the road of the Blood and Thunder type. How did this discipline develop, and how is that instilled in the members?
The discipline developed because we wanted it to develop. I remember we went to a parade in Lisbon and there was a lot of drink on board and a row developed, and I think that was the catalyst to say, right, we've had enough, this is how it is, and we put down firm rules in the band. And what we try to do is that we try to recruit younger members to the band, which allows us to promote the ethics of our band. We target the young lads that haven't been in a band before, and although we welcome all members and still do, contrary to what people think because we have a big band that we've closed the books, but we're always welcome the new members.
There's very few bands close the books no matter what they say.
Yeah, that's right. So we do prefer to teach them ourselves, and that way we can instill our own values in them and tell them what is expected of them.
Less bad habits being brought on board.
They know exactly what's expected of them as a Drumderg member. Like take for example there's 45 or 66 membership in the band that have been taught by ourselves. So when you get them young lads in at that stage and girls for the colour party, they know the rules and they stick by them. We can instill those rules in because they're coming to us as their first band. And not only that, when we let other people join the band, then they know the rules of the band and the consequences if they're broken before they join. Of course those rules are never watertight.
There's no excuses, put it like that. If you join the band, you know what regime you're going into.
That is the crux of the matter. People know before they join our band the rules of the band. Now, as I say, those rules are never watertight, and they never can be watertight, but the rules are set down to the members of the band as a guideline to adhere to, and fortunately for us, the majority of the boys do.
So Drumderg put a lot of effort into the drum corps, and a real respect that is having one of the best drum corps amongst the Blood and Thunder band circuit. What in your opinion makes a good drum corps? Do you prefer loose rolls, tight rolls?
Well, in my opinion, our drum corps is probably the strongest point of the band, and I most certainly, well, it's quite evident when you hear our drumming that we prefer the tight roll as opposed to the open roll, which is, in my opinion, again, is really designed to create more volume. But with the pipe band background I have, Jonathan, the lead tip of the band, has as well.
Your brother?
That's my brother. He would really try to stress to the boys that the tight roll is the way it should be played. I'm not saying that there's a right and a wrong, but when you've been brought up in a pipe band background, you're taught that it's supposed to be tight, but not only tight, but very uneven roll. I honestly do believe the drumming, I don't like too much content in the settings. Sometimes people, when they're making their drum settings, they will try and cram too much content into such a small space. I think the drumming actually should complement the tune and should flow with the tune, especially where there's emphasis on parts of the tune in the fluting, then the drum corps should be emphasising that part as well. And also a very important point in Blood and Thunder bands, I think the drumming should be controlled. The drumming should be, there's a fine line between.
In years gone by, the emphasis was on volume and basically battering.
Yeah. Well, what I try and tell our boys, because I actually teach the drum corps, what I try to tell them, that it's meant to be controlled drumming, and the drum should be played and not battered.
Keady is on the edge of South Armagh, or within South Armagh, definitely not very friendly to the marching band culture, Protestant culture, Unionist culture. What is the single most motivating factor in keeping a strong band in Keady?
The single most motivating factor for me keeping a band in Keady, probably a lot of people know this already, but my father was murdered in Keady in 1983 by the Provisional IRA. At that stage I was in Keady Pipe Band, and then I transferred to Drumderg in 1984, and most definitely for me, on a personal level, keeping that band going in Keady for my father's memory is my motivating factor, because there's countless ways that you could get back at Republicans for what they've done to me and my family, but there's nothing better for me getting back by putting together a band of the quality of Drumderg, which they can see, they know exists, and will continue to go from strength to strength. And that certainly what propels me, not as my motivating factor, because it's my way of getting back in the legal sense of the way and showing those people what they've done. This is my way of getting back at them, because the grief that they've caused to me and my family. And when I walk up through Keady Street, past the place where my father was murdered, there's nothing gives me a better buzz than walking up and saying, there you are. And the Nationalists and the Republicans in Keady know who I am. They know that this band is born out of revenge for what they have done. And the revenge is in the legal sense of the way, because I wouldn't have put my mother through any other way, because there's other ways of seeking revenge, but basically my way was putting a successful Flute and Drum band on the road, which is great from strength to strength. And that motivational factor will never ever leave me, because it was 22 years ago, coming now in April, that happened, and I remember it like yesterday. So to put a band on the road up there for them all to see is my way of getting back.
Keady is on the edge of South Armagh, or within South Armagh, definitely not very friendly to the marching band culture, Protestant culture, or Unionist culture. What is the single most motivating factor in keeping a strong band in Keady?
The single most motivating factor for me, keeping a band in Keady, probably a lot of people know this already, but my father was murdered in Keady in 1983 by the Provisional IRA. At that stage, I was in Keady Pipe Band, and then I transferred to Drumderg in 1984. And most definitely for me, on a personal level, keeping that band going in Keady for my father's memory is my motivating factor, because there's countless ways that you could get back at Republicans for what they've done to me and my family, but there's nothing better for me getting back by putting together a band of the quality of Drumderg, which they can see, they know exists, and will continue to go from strength to strength. And that certainly what propels me, not as my motivating factor, because it's my way of getting back in the legal sense of the way and showing those people what they've done. This is my way of getting back at them, because the grief that they've caused to me and my family. And when I walk up through Keady Street, past the place where my father was murdered, there's nothing gives me a better buzz than walking up and saying, there you are. And the Nationalists and the Republicans in Keady know who I am. They know that this band is born out of revenge for what they have done. And the revenge is in the legal sense of the way, because I wouldn't have put my mother through any other way, because there's other ways of seeking revenge, but basically my way was putting a successful Flute and Drum band on the road, which is great from strength to strength. And that motivational factor will never ever leave me, because it was 22 years ago, coming now in April, that happened, and I remember it like yesterday. So to put a band on the road up there for them all to see is my way of getting back.
very much evident within the band that from '86 it has been a continuous growth, continually improved. And apart from some of these obvious factors, what else has spurred the band on to keep improving?
Probably the biggest factor of spurring us on would probably be the rival bands. Not rival in the sense of the word, but other bands in the area. When you see other bands doing well, take for example, at that time, Kilkenny Volunteers and the Loyalist Fusiliers, and you take the like of Keady, Fusiliers, you take East Belfast, when all those bands are doing well, you want to try and do your best to match them. And, you know, that has a major influence on trying to be successful. Certainly when the local bands are doing well, because you want part of the cake, and you want to be, you know, the best band in the county. But we all have the, you know, we talk about rival bands, we all have, you know, respect, because at the end of the day we have, you know, one common identity, and that's the Loyalist cause in the end of the day.
That has to be a fundamental growth or a fundamental factor of the whole scene.
Without a shadow of a doubt. I suppose our belief in our own ability that we can do it and be successful, because I'm fortunate in our band that I have a select few of very talented individual musicians, and of course we want to continue to do well for the people that support us and our own lodge up there, which, you know, the membership of the lodge grows, and when the band does well, the lodge does well.
Paul, Drumderg's parade each year in June is not renowned for being one of the best parades for other bands to take part in. It's a short walk, mostly within the countryside, but it has continued to grow, and last year was one of the largest, I think it was the second largest in the county, one of the largest in the countryside.
Well, we have took a stand in Keady for years, while other bands in the district have opted to run. It says Keady on our bass drum, and our intention is to remain there indefinitely. Of course, we would be far better off if we took the parade to Armagh, and the parade in Armagh would bring us in more money, and would everything. The bands would be happy because they're getting a longer walk to do. But it's not about money; it's about principle. We have to be very careful because of the geography of the parade and the area that we don't sell our soul and run off to Armagh or some other place and sell our right to march in our own wee country, and our own wee, you know, countryside, and our own wee townland.
Though you aren't allowed to parade in Keady, you know, Keady still belongs to you every bit as much as it belongs to everybody else.
That's right, and you know, I think personally if we were to move that parade, it would be playing right into the hands of the Republicans to move away, because their agenda is ethnic cleansing, and we want to hold our tradition, our culture, our identity in South Armagh. In saying that, you're right in what you say, because bands have been very supportive of our cause up there, and you know,
50 bands.
50 bands, and the reason of 50 bands, and for me, you can forget about your trophies and forget about, you know, all the other things that go along with bands, but this is what it's really about, because in my estimation, it's holding on to the cornerstones of Ulster, and bands continue to come, bands continue to support us. Basically, they come to us, you know, to support us. Of course they come to us.
They come because you're a good band.
And they want us back at their parade.
The parade, for several years now, well over a decade, has been forced to start on the fringes of Keady, walking away from the town. Do you ever envisage the day when Drumderg band will be allowed to hold a parade through Keady village again?
I don't think that'll ever happen. In saying that, do parade a number of church services from Anvil Gardens, which is possibly another mile of a walk, and each band in the district takes their turn to take the orange service on the Sunday before the 12th up to the church at the top of Keady.
But you don't believe a band parade by
I don't
Drumderg
think a band parade by Drumderg Loyalists will ever be welcomed up in Keady.
within the whole Blood and Thunder and marching band scene today do you respect the most? And why is that?
I respect all bands. Every single Loyalist / Unionist band is on the road or practices in an Orange Hall. I give them the respect that they deserve because I know the work that it takes to run a band. Of course, there's bands out there that are better than others, and most certainly I have a lot of admiration for melody bands and pipe bands, basically for their brilliance. I think they're on a different level, perhaps, than the Blood and Thunder that can be deemed. But I have respect for all bands. There's bands out there in the Blood and Thunder scene that I respect. Take, for example, the like of Pride of the Hill up in Rough Island, East Belfast Protestant Boys, the Donegal Fusiliers. You know, for their playing, I respect them for their playing, and they're always trying to do something different. Then you have the small Blood and Thunder bands like Best Breakthrough Blues, Lambeg Orange and Blue, the like of Charles Watson Memorial, which I think is possibly one of the best small Blood and Thunder bands in the road, without a shadow of a doubt. And last but not least, there's one band that I really respect. It's Concluding Volunteers, and I respect them for their PR. I think their PR is miles above anybody else's PR. They're always trying to do something different, trying to further the marching band cause.
They're not a bad playing band either.
Not a bad playing band, you know, not a bad playing band either.
Thanks very much, Paul. In your opinion, Paul, what makes a good Blood and Thunder band? Maybe more importantly, when does a band's style change that much that they cease to be Blood and Thunder?
That's a very controversial question.
Well, let's start off with what makes a good Blood and Thunder band.
Well, in my opinion, first and foremost, in Blood and Thunder, you have to have the discipline. You have to have good discipline in any band. I feel in relation to alcohol, in relation to the way we march, your appearance is very, very important. But of course,
behaviour as well.
Behaviour of band members is very important. But of course, that's not the main thing, because the main thing is the playing. Very important thing in a band is a good lead tip, a good leading drummer. Because I was chatting to people last night, and we were talking about drum corps and what have you, and we reckon that we'll have a decent lead tip, because in my estimation, the lead tip actually sets the pace of the band. Now, people will argue different. They'll say, no, it's the bass drum. But for me, the lead tip sets the pace, but the bass drummer maintains the pace.
Yeah, and can change it, of course.
And can change it sometimes as well. So a good lead tip is most definitely needed for a good band. A good bass drummers helps a good Blood and Thunder band, and I reckon a good tune list is very important, because people want to hear different things.
Along with the
traditional, and you know, it's very important that they never move away. Take, for example, we would learn our policy, which has helped the band over this last years, is we always try and learn 5 to 6 new tunes for the start of a marching season. And the important thing that we do is we never ever chop orange tunes. We never say, right, we're playing these 5 new tunes, some tunes have to go. Obviously some tunes have to go, but we never cut the orange tunes. And we always at least try and play, in those 5, we always try to learn an orange tune, because we can't move away from that.
That's our roots.
That's our roots. And the tune list is very, very important for a band, because that will actually set the standard of your band, the tunes that you play. Something that your own band would have high on their priorities would be a smart uniform. I think a smart uniform helps the band no end. Back in 1998, when we changed to the red trousers and the navy jackets, that just set the band on a roll, because we got those uniforms, we got the lift from the uniforms.
You look smart and you feel smart.
You look smart and you feel smart, and then people start to join the band because you have a nice uniform, the membership grows, and it has a knock-on effect. And one of the most important things in a good band is a very healthy bank account.
Definitely.
A very healthy bank account, because to keep young people interested in the band, you have to you have to be continually doing things all the time. If that means getting new drums, if it means getting new flutes the next year, maybe the following year a trip away to Scotland or a trip to somewhere, but you have to have the funds in place to do all these things.
The band has to be active, nearly over and above just creating. It's not enough to maintain interest.
Because it's a social thing. you know, we all like to go out and socialise, and the way to do that is to get everybody involved in the band and have nights away that they don't have, you know, the pressure of playing, where the boys can go out and enjoy themselves.
This Blood and Thunder style, within everything you pointed out there, it has, within some bands have developed a lot over this last couple of years. Drumming styles are changing, tunes are changing, the style is changing. A lot of people are asking when the Blood and Thunder style ceases to become Blood and Thunder. Can you put a limit on that? Is there a limit on it? What is Blood and Thunder?
Well, Flute and Thunder back in the 1990s was Desperate True Blues, was Portavogie, was Gold Springs, but I don't think it has moved on since then, because you say, is there a limit in Blood and Thunder? there's no limit in Blood and Thunder what you can do.
What does the term Blood and Thunder refer
Well, Blood
to?
and Thunder means, if you want to really go back, you're making a racket, you're making noise. But I think today's standards have changed where it's not necessarily the volume anymore that wins praise, but it's up to everybody's individual self whether they like a Blood and Thunder band coming down the road playing seconds in a tune. But what I continually say is it still remains Blood and Thunder if
You want to be within that category?
if you want to be within that category. Take for example East Belfast Brothers and Boys.
Yes.
Very, very talented band, and people sometimes question whether they're Blood and Thunder. I have no doubt in my mind they're Blood and Thunder, because anybody that hits the bass drum the way Big Jim hits it on the drum corps, they're not just hopping down the road, they're Blood and Thunder. And that aggressive style is Blood and Thunder. But then
well, if we got it now then, is it there has to be an element of aggression. The blood has to be there.
It has to be there. For me, I think Blood and Thunder is deemed to be Blood and Thunder, and it's determined whether it's Blood and Thunder by the way you play your drums and the way you play your bass drum. If you play your bass drum loud, if you play your drum corps loud, then I reckon you're Blood and Thunder. Now, there's a fine line. Because more young defenders,
Very loud band.
very loud band, but their term is being melody. I don't honestly think it matters what tune you're playing.
Well, if the morning decided in the morning they wanted to be called Blood and Thunder, who could argue with it?
They could be Blood and Thunder, but then when they're playing low tension drums aren't synonymous with Blood and Thunder. But my opinion is that you're Blood and Thunder by the way you play your drums and the way you play your bass drum. If you play it loud, then you're Blood and Thunder, and it doesn't matter what tune you're playing and whether there's seconds or thirds in the tune. If you play your drums loud and your bass drum loud, then you're Blood and Thunder.
Paul, we briefly touched there on the musical direction that some bands are pursuing. In general, what is the future for the marching band scene, in your opinion?
The future for the marching band scene, I think, would be through the Ulster Band Association. I think that's a very, very important thing, that all bands should get into some sort of an association with other bands, to work with other bands under one umbrella group. And of course, with Drumderg being a member of the Ulster Bands Association, I would highly recommend the Ulster Bands Association. I have made many friends through that association. You get to know other bands. We can fight. We can basically sing off the same hymn sheet and tackle the problems that bands have. And the bands do have problems. Number one, the bands have problems with their image, because the ordinary 5-8 in the street sees bands in general as being thugs.
And it's through a lack of understanding.
It's through a lack of understanding. So I think if we can all get into some sort of association, and obviously the Ulster Bands Association, I feel, is that vehicle for it.
Deal with these problems collectively.
Yeah, because it gives us more clout. An army in numbers is hard to defeat, and I think that's the way forward. I think we need to work on our civilised image with the band, and of course the future of bands is to continue to improve the product that we're giving people on the road, to improve our playing, to improve our style and appearance, our marching, and that will make us stand out. And very important thing, to keep all people happy, I think we need to look at the judging of praise. Now, a lot of bands, including Kilclooney, have elected or have went for independent judges, which I think is good. But I think I would like to see a more structured,
A bit like the melody type scene.
a bit like the melody type scene, but more so maybe like
The pipe
the
band.
pipe band scene, where maybe not in grades, but we need to have a more structured judging, because the way the grades are being judged at the minute is leaving it too open.
It's incredibly inconsistent.
Yes, it's inconsistent, and it's leaving it open for people to have a go if they don't win. Oh, favouritism here, favouritism there.
But then with this whole problem that within Blood and Thunder genre, you have the style of the likes of Bank or Friday the Million, then try and judge that alongside East Belfast Protestant Boys, then add in Portavoga or South Belfast Young Conquerors, add in the style of yourselves, maybe Kilclooney. You have so much difference there.
There is a vast amount of difference in the playing, certainly in County Armagh, than the playing up Brian Ballymena direction, where they would be termed as being jiggy, and it's very, very hard to judge that. And where they want to be judged, possibly a way around it is to create a separate category for them. have a category for that style of band, and it's up to every band's own self of what category they enter. If they want to be in the Blood and Thunder category,
Yes.
then that's what they'll be judged on.
So you would be an advocate of the small Blood and Thunder category too then?
Oh, most definitely. It encourages the small bands, because I never forget the roots, forget our roots as Drumderg, because we were small Blood and Thunder.
A few drummers and half a dozen fluters, or 8 fluters maybe?
That's right. The bottom line is the small Blood and Thunder needs to be there to encourage the smaller bands, because at the end of the day, you get the like of Long Big Orange and Blue, who are an excellent band, but they're never going to beat the bigger bands.
Well, it boils down to large numbers will make larger volume, no matter how good your flutes are.
As it says in the rental lab, size matters.
Paul, what annoys you most about the band scene at the moment?
There's not a lot that really annoys me about it, but there's a few different things that we can work on. I certainly don't like petty rivalries between bands. I think bands should be working together, i.e. through the Ulster Bands Association. And you'll find, the bands that are part of that association do work very well together. Certainly on a local level, we work well with, all the bands in County Armagh, and we try to work with them and respect them for what they are. But I don't like petty rivalries in bands where one saying we're better than you, and I don't like this attitude. I don't like possibly the insular view that they have that, as long as their band's alright, it doesn't matter about the rest. We need to be caring about each other and looking out for each other in relation to running their own bands and helping each other in certain aspects where,
A strong band's no good if there's no scene to create it.
That's the way it is, and I feel that if we can all work together and put all our wee petty rivalries to one side, then it'll most certainly enhance the band scene. The bad image that has been portrayed by the abuse of alcohol with bands annoys me. There's nothing I hate more than going to a parade and seeing somebody in a band uniform trying to parade while drunk. I don't think it creates the right image for...
But then again, Paul, you accept that this is always a minority and a very, very small minority.
That's right, but...
It still tarnishes the overall image.
It still tarnishes the overall image. One bad egg in the basket could tar the whole...
It has done.
And it has done in the past, and people use it as a weapon against us, saying, oh, you done this or you done that. Again, with the Ulster Bands Association, we have set out, a guideline for member bands to adhere to try and promote a better image among bands. And some of the things, one other thing that we've already touched on it is the inconsistency of judging. And as I've already said in my previous question, it needs looked at, because we don't want to leave it open for people to complain that favouritism occurs.
That inconsistency breeds the rivalry and the egos.
That's right.
It allows them room to breathe. Flute and Drum.
It's a privilege to talk to you, Quincy. All I have to say to the listeners of Loyalist FM, no surrender from Keady.
Flute and Drum is an independent production for Loyalist FM, produced on a completely voluntary basis. You can contact Flute and Drum directly via Loyalist FM, or alternatively email fluteanddrum@yahoo.com.